Hey there, good to be back with you again. I am Bernie Miklasz, and this is The Bernie Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, I want to ask you a favor, please. I'm going to keep bugging you. Please do it. Help us out. We want to grow our subscriber list here on our YouTube channel. It's just one click. You can subscribe, and all the video will come right to you whenever you want it. It's there for you. You have easy access to all the great stuff we're doing here at STL Sports Central, whether it be the Cardinals, the Blues, Mizzou, City SC, St. Louis U, live streams after every game. Also, really good sports wagering videos from Eric Sontag. So it's good stuff. But please subscribe and help us out and hit the like button. All right, today's topic on The Bernie Show: 5 things that frustrate me about the 2025 St. Louis Cardinals. Yeah, a little different today. I'm going to be moving it around a little, but that's all right. We'll hit on these 5 things. I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can. But you know me, I got to give you some numbers to back up my opinions. That's the way it works. That's how I roll, right? All right, let's go with the first item on the list. Number 1, the state of the starting pitching. I know the situation's probably going to get better over time. How soon, I don't know. But the Cardinals do have some young and promising, I should say, promising young starting pitchers in development in the minors. And until they get here, you never know. And even when they get here, can they stay healthy? And, how long will it take them to adjust to the major leagues? All that kind of stuff. We know that already. But at this moment in time, like I said, it could get better. But at this moment in time, it's a bleak situation, at least until Chaim Bloom and his people can, have enough time to make a real difference in helping the Cardinals develop starting pitching, which is something they've been terrible at for really a long time. Since May 30th, let me get back up here. See, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. The St. Louis rotation started off well this season until reality hit and the batted ball luck wore off. The batted ball luck, instead of good luck, it became really bad luck. But that's what happens when you can't strike people out. Since May 30th, the Cardinals starters ranked 28th in the majors with a 5.53 ERA. And though the fielding independent ERA is a little better than that, it isn't much consolation. As you know, the big problem is missing bats. This season, the St. Louis starters ranked 29th in the majors in strikeout rate and swing and miss rate. And only one set of pitchers, the Rockies, have allowed more batted balls in fair territory than the St. Louis Cardinals this season. See, that's a problem. When the ball's in play so frequently, all the time, just about, you have a good defense, but the defense can't get to everything. And sometimes hitters hit the ball where the defense isn't set up. But really, the thing that really bothers me is what each individual pitcher has been doing, since May 30th, when the rotation started to fall apart. That's why I'm using that date. Since that date, let me give you the individual ERAs from Cardinal starters. Since that date, May 30th. Sonny Gray, 4.48. Michael McGreevy, 4.96. That's a little misleading because he's been better and it's not like he's been in the rotation anyway. But let's do it again. Sonny Gray, 4.48. Michael McGreevy, 4.96. Matthew Liberatore, 5.46. Andre Palante, a 5.78 ERA. And Miles Michaelis, a 5.88 ERA. And before they let him go, Eric Fetty had a 7.32 ERA. Since May 30th. I mean, listen, when your ace, Sonny Gray, has got a 4.48 ERA since the end of May, and recently it has been much, much worse, since the All-Star break, since the beginning of July, however you want to line it. He's been over 6 runs per game, certainly since the All-Star break. I think it's 6.17. But excuse me if I'm wrong a little bit on that. I don't have that note in front of me, but I looked it up yesterday. The Cardinals are paying a heavy price for their glaring failure to develop starting pitchers. It's a bad situation, and there's no glossing over it, no finessing it. It's just a bad situation because they've done such a bad job of drafting and developing pitchers. And it finally caught up to them. Well, it's actually caught up to them long before now. but they've been plugging and plugging and plugging and trying to spackle it and put a new cone of paint on it. It's been a bad situation for quite a long time. And perhaps some help will be on the way next season, depending on the progress of Quinn Matthews and Liam Doyle. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative here, but as we've learned with Tink Hence and we've learned with Takoa Roby and we've learned with Cooper Jerpy and some other young prospects with real talent, young pitchers break down. So you never really know. You can bet on them and you can hope for the best and you can make sure you take care of them responsibly by not, overloading them with too many innings and breaking them down. But man, you just never know with young pitchers. There's a pretty high attrition rate. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the alarming lack of power by the St. Louis Cardinals offense. This season, the Redbirds have hit a home run on average every 35.3 at bats. That ranks 27th among the 30 teams. The ball isn't traveling as far this season. That is true across the majors. Major League Baseball is always fooling with the ball, right? Always doctoring the ball. And this is one of those years where Rob Manfred must have called one of his stooges and said, well, we got to deaden that thing up a little bit. I don't know why people like offense, but anyway, even though the ball has not traveled as far as usual, or as has been the case in a lot of years, that's no excuse for the Cardinals because all the other 29 teams face the same conditions and they're using the same baseballs, okay? The Cardinals do not have power, period, not much of it. That home run rate of one homer every 35.3 at bats and an average of 0.95 home runs per game is the worst by a Cardinals team in a full season since 2015, and before that, 2014. Now, the baseballs being used in those days were not lively either, but again, there's no excuse here. There's no justification here because the baseballs are the same for all the teams. That doesn't cover for the Cardinals' lack of power, and that's been in place really for quite a while, although they've had their moments like the 2022 season with Arenado, Goldschmidt, and Pujols. This season, the Cardinals ranked 24th in slugging percentage, 28th in isolated power. Isolated power isn't really fancy. It's basically batting average, slugging percentage minus batting average. It's a metric that takes doubles, triples, home runs, extra base hits into account. Because of the shortage of home run power, the Cardinals require, on average, 1.92 hits to score a run. That doesn't seem like much, but it is because that's 23rd in the major leagues. When you need to bunch hits together, it's a difficult way to score runs, and that explains why the Cardinals rank 27th in majors in runs since the 30th May, and they've scored the fewest runs in the majors since June the 30th. That's the series that began in Pittsburgh where they got the 3 straight shutouts, or they were shut out 3 straight games. And for a while, the first couple months in particular, the Cardinals were doing a good job of hitting with runners in scoring position. So that was getting some of those runs home. But that's dried up too. It really hasn't been good in the second half of the season. It really hasn't been all that hot since, sometime in June. I was looking at the numbers yesterday. I won't read any more of them because I'm giving you a lot of numbers on this. Anyway, so they're not really coming through with runners in scoring position the way they were earlier. Part of that might be the quality at bats. Part of it might be luck. Part of it might be just general lack of talent. I don't know. The Cardinals have hit a home run or more in 71 games this season. That's the third lowest total in the majors. Only the Royals and Pirates have done worse, meaning hitting home runs in fewer games than the Cardinals. When the Cardinals get a home run, they have a winning record. When they get 2 or more home runs, they got a great record. The problem is they don't have enough power to make that happen more consistently. All right, number 3. And this one is really in my craw. I've talked about it in a couple of Redbird reviews that I've written. I may have mentioned it here, but I want to put it all together for you today. Let me put my grouchy cap on. Wait a minute, I can't because that's Stan Musial. He's not grouchy. He was one of the sweetest people who ever walked the face of the earth. I should have had a backup hat. a grouchy hat. I'm gonna work on that. Show and tell, props. Anyway, here goes. I'm tired of everybody harping on small ball about a Cardinals team that does a terrible job of playing small ball. Yeah, every now and then they move a runner over, and oh my goodness, the TV people, God bless them, they go absolutely bananas. They lose their minds. The problem is that hardly happens much, despite a ton of evidence that shows how truly bad this team is playing so-called small ball. And oh yeah, I'll be going to give you the evidence here soon, okay? But despite a ton of evidence about how awful they are at playing small ball, I constantly hear references like the Cardinals need to play more small ball. Quit worrying about hitting them home runs. I don't want to hear about that launch angle stuff. I got to play some small ball. Or when the Cardinals do pull off a small ball play and it works, that's when all the shouting begins. That's St. Louis Cardinals baseball right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's St. Louis Cardinals baseball. No, sorry to be a nag, but it isn't. It's nothing like that. The Cardinals cannot execute that style of baseball with any kind of skill or dependability. It's the style of baseball that puts so many people in a state of ecstasy, and so much they want to be in that state of ecstasy, the small ball fever, that they actually can't process the fact that the Cardinals are horrible at it. So they're doing a lot of wish casting. Like if you move a runner over, it's like, well, see, that's Cardinals small ball. See, that's what happens when they play small ball. See, it's like fans who like crave this stuff and media are like trying to wish it into existence, wish casting. But it's really, really bad what they do when they try to do this. And I'll take you through it. But let me ask you, before I do that, let me ask you a question here. Why in the hell would you want a team to play more small ball when the team is absolutely horrendous at doing it? How in the world does that make sense? Tell me. Leave comments. Tell me how it makes sense. I'm not opposed to small ball, but the one thing that I would like, if you're going to try to play small ball, you actually have to be good at it. Start with this. I'm hollering. Let me lower my voice. Sorry. Start with this. According to StatCast, the Cardinals are 12th in the National League, 15 teams, 12th in the National League in team speed ratings. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because the Cardinals lack athleticism. See, it's not a good combination when you don't have power and you don't have a lot of good athletes. See, and so when they're near the bottom of the National League in team speed ratings, in other words, average sprint speed for all their players, put them together, you get an average for your whole team. And let's face it, Victor Scott and a couple other guys have a lot to do with that. It's a slow team. All right, and this has consequences. The Cardinals rank 12th among the 15 teams in the National League in stolen bases. They are 8th in the National League in a metric called base running runs, slightly below average. The lack of team speed is among the reasons why the Cardinals have hit into the 4th most double plays of any National League team. The lack of speed is among the reasons why only 3 NL teams have had more runners thrown out on the bases than St. Louis. It's hard to play small ball when you don't have much speed as a team, because the more athletic you are and the more you can run and get to the next base safely, you can play more small ball, pardon me. You know who's really good at small ball? Probably don't have to tell you this. Excellent at small ball. That would be the Milwaukee Brewers, okay? Cardinals are nothing like them when it comes to playing small ball. But I guarantee you the next time there's a sacrifice bunt or something, people will be shouting from the rooftops. Anyway, what about productive outs? That's the thing that the TV guys get excited about. Like moving the moving the runner over, the classic small ball stuff. The so-called little things that make people very, very, very happy. One problem. The Cardinals stink at doing this, okay? They rank 14th among the 15 National League teams in productive out percentage. Productive out percentage meaning how many times do you move a runner up? How many times, even on an out, does a runner gets to scoot to the next base? That the Cardinals, only the Rockies are worse than the Cardinals in the National League. The Cardinals are, I hear like all the time, another thing, it's like, I've never understood this fetish of you got a runner on second base with nobody out, and you want to bunt him to third base. He's already in scoring position. Okay, I don't get it. So the Cardinals try to do this, I think maybe a little more than they should. Here's the problem. They rank 13th in sacrifice bunt success. There's been only 2 teams in the National League who were worst at actually pulling off a sac bunt, not bunting for a base hit. I'm talking about a designated or designed sac bunt. The Cardinals are 13th among 15 NL teams. And yet you got people pleading with them to like, oh, drop that sacrifice bunt. Got to get that runner to third. They're a bad team trying to do sac bunts. So why do you want more of that? The Cardinals are 14th among the 15 NL teams and advancing a runner from second base when there are no outs in the inning. Think about that one. Moving the runners over. Hey, I like that. I like not with using a bunt and willingly giving up an out, but just through normal baseball execution. I like the idea. You got a runner on second, hit the ball to the right side, get him to third. That's fine. Because when you hit the ball to the right side, you can also get through for a single. And the Cardinals are next to last in the National League of being able to move that runner up or over from second base with no outs. They are 13th of the 15 teams in the National League in getting a runner home from third base with less than 2 outs. That's awful. That's maybe the best small ball play you can make. Get that runner in from third base when there's no outs or 1 out. You got to do it, right? They're terrible at it. The Cardinals are also 13th among 15 NL teams in what StatCast calls extra bases taken value. In other words, how many times, whatever the cause is, how many times do you advance a base on a batted ball or advance a base when you have a chance to advance a base? Not counting stolen bases. The Cardinals are second from the bottom in the National League at doing that. You know who's at the top? All together now, the Milwaukee Brewers. They're the best at this. You notice a trend here? Well, the Brewers are also a lot faster and a lot more athletic. See, this is the problem the Cardinals have with offense. You want to know why they've scored fewer runs than any team in the majors since June the 30th? Well, when you're one of the worst power hitting teams in the majors and you're one of the worst small ball teams in the majors, and when you have one of the slowest and least athletic teams in the majors, talking about offense, seriously now, how in the heck are you going to score runs with any consistency when all those factors are working against you? The answer, you won't score runs with any consistency. Oh, you'll have your good games here and there. You may get hot for a series. You may beat up a team or two. I'm not talking about isolated examples. I'm talking about the entire body of work for the season. When I return, I'll calm down. I was hollering too much. I'm sorry about that. But I'd rather have energy than not have energy, right? And that way you can laugh at me too when I make an ass of myself, right? Entertainment value. When I return for my second and final segment today on the Bernie Show, I'm going to explain 2 other things that frustrate me about the 2025 Cardinals. But first, hit that subscribe button. I'm going to keep nagging you on that. Anyway, but before that, it is DraftKings time. If you haven't played DraftKings Pick 6 Daily Fantasy before, it's time to jump in. You got the final few weeks left of baseball season. Then we're going to roll right into the college and NFL season. Then you got hockey and NBA coming up after that, college basketball. On and on and on and on. It's a good time to start your relationship with DraftKings Pick 6. DraftKings Pick 6 makes it simple to get started. So put your baseball IQ or really your knowledge of every sport to good use and win some cash. Just download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings and it's easy to get started in making your selections. Each day, DraftKings sets a stat line for dozens of major league hitters or pitchers for their next game. So you pick more or less. That's what they call it, more or less, that line that they set. You could also say higher or lower or over that line or under that line, whatever. More or less, we'll go with that. You just pick more or less on the stat line for 2 or more of your favorite players, and you're in the game for a shot at success. All right, here's what I like for Tuesday night's game, Cardinals at Marlins. Alec Burleson has a DraftKings Pick 6 line for this one of 0.5 hits, which means if he gets 1 hit, that's all it takes for you to win if you go with more than 0.5 hits for Alec Burleson. And I'm taking the more for 2 reasons. Burleson, after a little bit of a cool spell, not bad, but he's hitting 393 in his last 7 games, and he's hitting 450 in his last 5 games. He also went 2 for 4 against the Marlins on July 28th in St. Louis, and one of his hits was a home run off of Edward Cabrera, who starts for the Marlins tonight. So I'm giving you an example of how you sort of think this through. It doesn't mean nothing's guaranteed, but if you're going to go with the percentages, Burleson going over 0.5 hits is a smart play. Pick 6 is available here in Missouri, so there's nothing to hold you back. I really enjoy DraftKings Pick 6 Fantasy, and I think you're going to like it too. Don't settle for smaller payouts at other places. No way. You need to be treated better than that. You deserve better than that, so that's why you're going to switch to DraftKings Pick 6. Then you'll be at the right place at the right time with the right people for winning cash. Right now, new customers will receive $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. So just use the code STL Sports. It's important. Use the code STL Sports to make it happen for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, welcome back to the second segment of the Bernie Show here on STL Sports Central. And here's a reminder, please hit us with that subscribe button. Hit that, hit the like button, and then we will love you forever on our YouTube channel. Hit, right? Thank you. In the first segment, I revealed 3 things about the 2025 Cardinals that frustrate me a lot. Now let's hit the other 2 things on my list. Number 3, I got to say, man, I get burned out by the Cardinals talking about how banged up they are, how beaten up they are. We got a lot of guys banged up. We got a lot of guys kind of feeling it these days. We got some guys who are a little worn down. Schedule's been tough, yada, 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 so on and so forth. Listen, I'm not a jerk, but every team goes through this. Every team has patches of schedule that are really challenging. Every team's got players who are tired. Every team's got players who are banged up. So I'm not sure why when the Cardinals talk about this, it's like they give off this vibe that somehow this is all very unfair. It's not unfair. It's called baseball, okay? It's called a 162-game schedule. And this is the other reason, if you're thinking, and that's okay, if you're thinking, because I do read some minds, you didn't know that. If you're thinking, well, Bernie, I get it. You're making too big of a deal about it. Okay, with all due respect, I am not. If that's what you're thinking, and there I go talking to imaginary people in my mind. I never claimed that I was sane, so don't look at me that way. Anyway, this season, only one team in the major leagues, Philadelphia, has had fewer games missed by their players than the St. Louis Cardinals. The Cardinals have actually been very fortunate on the injury front. The Cardinals' second lowest injury total in the majors because 145 of those days missed belong to pitcher Zach Thompson, who hasn't pitched all season, and he wasn't in their plans in the big leagues for 2025. Other than that, the only significant injury situation was Ivan Herrera having to go on the IL on 2 separate occasions, and if you add those 2 together, it caused him to be out for 55 days. Other than that, and it's not 55 games, but it's 55 days. Other than that, there's nothing substantial, just the usual injuries and ailments that every single team experiences. The Cardinals have gone for relatively short periods of times without Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Lars Nootbaar, but of course, Mason Wynn, Nolan Arenado, and Brendan Donovan. They've all missed time, but for the most part, these injuries were spread out, and none of them were catastrophic. Cardinals, in terms of games missed this season, the Cardinals have missed 293 games combined among their players. Now, let's compare that to some of the contending teams in Major League Baseball. Remember, Cardinals, 293 games. Players on the Brewers, Dodgers, Yankees, Astros, Mets, Tigers, Red Sox, and Reds. Every one of those teams have had players miss at least 1,000 games this season combined. The Blue Jays are just under 1,000 games missed for their players in 2025. The Padres are over 800 games missed. The Cubs are about 700 games missed. The Cardinals, once again, their players have combined to miss 293 games. That's nothing compared to those teams that I just read you the numbers on. And I realize the Cardinals have a lack of depth and all that kind of stuff, but that's part of the problem. If you're doing your job right, in terms of the front office and planning, you have better depth, but they don't. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion anyway, that there should be a lot of crying about injuries, because the Cardinals have been very fortunate on the injury front. They've been less impacted than all but one team in the majors. And I think it's really important to point that out the next time you hear some people complaining about it. All right, number 5, and this is also related to injuries, but it is different. Number 5 on my list of things that frustrate me about the 2025 Cardinals. And believe me, I probably could have stretched this list to 10, but I won't do that. This one's related to injuries, but it is different. Here we go. The Cardinals, in my opinion, don't do a good job of managing injuries. We saw that again over the weekend when the Cardinals played with a shorthanded roster in all 3 games against the Yankees. Instead of 26 men, it was 24 men. Now, look, I understand. I'm a reasonable person. I understand why the Cardinals chose to keep Wilson Contreras off the IL for those 3 games, because his injury was caused by getting hit with a pitch in the foot was relatively minor. And when they said, well, we think he'll be back, in a couple of days, they were pretty much right, because Wilson Contreras returned to the lineup Monday night in Miami. But this was not the case at all with Brendan Donovan. He sat out all 3 games against the Yankees with a groin strain. And the thing that's important to remember about that, and Brendan Donovan himself said this, he's had 2 other injuries this season. At first, it was a toe, then it was a foot, now it's a groin strain. And Brendan Donovan told reporters that all 3 of these things are related. In other words, when he was trying to compensate for that bad toe that he had, he's putting his foot in a different position and maybe try to cushion the blow or whatever it may be. And then the foot gets screwed up. And then the way he's moving his legs to account for the toe and the foot being painful, well, you're doing stuff, you're twisting and putting your body in a position it's not used to. And then that's when he developed a strained groin. So it's not like this was an isolated injury where you say, well, we'll just give him a couple, 3 days. There's no need to put him on the IL. But that's not the case here, though, because Donovan has been playing hurt for quite a long time with one thing or another. And I admire his desire to want to play. But what is the point when he can't play well because of these injuries and because he's playing in such discomfort and pain? How does it help him, and how does it help the team? It doesn't. His offensive statistics have faded dramatically since the beginning of June, and that's no surprise considering how often Brendan Donovan, great competitor, but how often he goes out there not close to being physically capable as he needs to be to perform at a high level. I mean, he's lost some ground defensively. If we're talking about, let me find this real quick, and I apologize for you. Like, for example, since the beginning of June, using weighted runs created plus, Brendan Donovan's 19% below average offensively. Below average is in below the major league average. 19% below. And if you look at where he is in June 1st, I'll give you the stats. That's a 229 batting average. It's which ranks 108th among 124 players with enough at bats. He's got a 307 on base percentage. That's way below his usual rate. And his slugging percentage is 333, which is way below his usual rate. Brendan Donovan's OPS since June the 1st is 640. And on a list of 124 players that have at least 230 plate appearances, on that list of 124 players since June 1st, that ranks 119. And he's only been good for about 0.1, 0.2 wins above replacement. I'm not blaming him. because he's been playing hurt. He's been playing when he shouldn't play. And his performance has suffered because of it. And this is where I don't understand managers. It's not just Ollie Marmol, it's a lot of managers. I don't understand it, why they insist because a player says, oh, I can go. I'm feeling pretty good. I can go. Why, when you have a big pile of evidence that tells you this guy's not the same. Physically, he's not the same. And just look at his statistics. This is not just some slump. He's really been dragging. So I don't understand what the point is, and so many managers do this, of running a guy out there and hurting him or not allowing him to heal up, and also hurting your team and him, because the statistics start to drop and drop and drop and drop, and he's not helping you win. So instead of shutting Brendan Donovan down on the IL in this most recent thing, the strained groin, manager Ollie Marmol, kept wanting to run him out there, and he wanted to do it again. He's been trying to run him out there with all these other injuries, and he wanted to do it again this time, willing to ride it out with Donovan instead of putting him on the IL. But if he would have missed another game or two, he would have been halfway through the IL, if not more, depending on when they finally put him back in the lineup. But the thing of it is, they finally did the smart thing, and they put him on the IL before Monday's game in Miami because he was making no progress with this groin injury. And so, again, I repeat, wouldn't the smart play have been to say, you know what, dude, we love you. You compete your tail off. Everybody in this clubhouse has got the utmost respect for you. We know who you are and how hard you play and how much you want to help your team. But we want you to heal up. We want to shut you down for at least 10 days. We want you to heal up. So when you come back, you'll feel better and you'll play better, and everyone's going to be happy, including you. But no, they were trying to do the thing. Well, even if he misses 5 or 6 games, that's not as bad as putting him on the IL for 10 days. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it is, because you're not letting him heal. You're not giving him a chance to heal. So he comes back and he's not really where he should be physically. I realize the Cardinals lack depth, but few of their starters, we've seen this a lot. It goes back to Matheny, it goes back to Schilt, and it continues through Marmol. Few of their starters, we've seen a few of their starters every year. It happens this way. They wear down because they aren't given enough time to breathe and catch their breath and let their bodies regenerate a little. And I'm not talking about putting them on the bench for 4 days in a row. I'm talking about just mixing more days off in there instead of playing them over and over and over again, especially when they're showing signs that they're dragging. There's 3 guys for sure that come to mind on this: Brendan Donovan, Nolan Arenado, and Mason Wynn. But at least Mason Wynn's got youth on his side. Brendan Donovan, despite what some of the media say, you'd think he was 19 years old. He'll be 29 at the start of next season. He's young, but he's got a lot of miles on that body. But this is something we've said on KMOX a lot. Wouldn't it help Nolan Arenado to have more days off? He's not as young as he used to be. He plays with a lot of pain. And wouldn't it be smart to not just to put him on the bench, not to punish him, but to give him some time to regenerate? The same is true of Mason Wynn when he has, that back's been flaring up, some other little injuries. Do the safe thing. Just give him a couple days off. Certainly applies to Brendan Donovan, because I just explained to you why. Besides, the Cardinals said this was supposed to be a runway season with expanded opportunities given to young players. And one way to do that is to give tired veterans who are dragging a few more days off, and that gives you a chance to plug the younger guys in. See, that's a win-win. The veterans who are dragging get some rest, and the young players who are saying, wait a minute, I thought this was this runway. Why am I not playing? Gives you a chance to put them in the game or start them a couple games, start them 2 out of 3 games, whatever. But the Cardinals don't do that. Look, there are some things that I really like about this team. The bullpen, I really like the way Ollie Marmol and Dusty Blake run a bullpen. They cleaned it up at the end of April, and the Cardinals, even now, continue to have one of the top 5 bullpens in the major leagues since the beginning of May. I like the defense. I like the way this team competes. It looks bad sometimes because they don't have enough offense, and it's kind of hard to look like you're this great competitive team when the starting pitchers are putting you down 5-0 early in games. I think this team competes. I don't have a problem with that. during the course of a season, every team will look flat. Every team will look tuckered out. Every team doesn't have the zip. I don't know why, fans of every team would expect their teams to play like maniacs for 162 games, and it really doesn't happen. I think the Cardinals get good grades for their competitiveness this year. More than anything, the Cardinals, as you know, they suffer from a lack of talent and they suffer from a lack of depth, and that is a bad combination. They also suffer from a power shortage, and they suffer from their inability to execute small ball, and they suffer from poor starting pitching. And once again, that's a really bad combination. And that's why Chaim Bloom was recruited to take over as president of baseball operations at the end of the season. I suspect it'll take time, but I believe things will start to turn in the right direction because they're going to work on the flaws that they have instead of letting these flaws go uncorrected, or let these flaws not be worked on to improve on them. Because the Cardinals have spent the last few years, playing a game of denial, thinking they're better than they were, overrating their own players, insisting things aren't that bad when things, really are that bad. So I think Chaim Bloom, when he comes in, I think he's going to put some reality into this operation, and I think that's a really good thing. It can only help. All right, that's all for today. I'm sorry I was hollering earlier. I thank you all for watching, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel here at STL Sports Central. Appreciate it very much. I'll be back tomorrow with another Bernie Show presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. Thank you.